Yeah, definitely one of the less well-liked maps in the community, but I think it's also, ironically, one of the ones that a lot of NASL teams are looking at just to play a little better because they're good enough to play on all of the other maps. They can afford to spend time practicing the less conventional ones. And, we've seen teams pull it out as a pocket pick and just dominate because the other team didn't bother practice, assuming that it's going to be banned time after time. But we do have a lot of corner aggression here with that rune, with that Rasmus. Tempo trying to go for a nice dash there, but not quite managed to get it. Heaven Resident there on the bottom. Actually managed to get it with the anomaly there. Nicely done. Fiery getting it down to the bottom as well. Going to take the first goal. And that's a 23-second point here. Normally Inky's a little longer, but, well, I don't think Team Red over here is going to want this to go on too long with that kind of momentum.
Yeah, I mean, a very good start for PPL. I think they are playing a little bit of that hydration comp, if Heaven Resident or AverageAlex can get some of that damage and get some of those banishes onto the other team, then they'll maybe be able to work with Bloom, work with that Supernova from Vice to get something going. But it is now Rat Pack on the offensive, and this is where they can really shine here, Both these characters are very, very oppressive on this open net, and that is exactly where Carmine and Temperamental want to be, as that's AverageAlex taken out.
Yeah, and the bounce doesn't go in favor of Maloom there, didn't hit the corner, and that's going to allow now to pick it up with the core flip. A goal to tie it up here. The Rat Pack not going to go quietly at the very least. Tempemelon celebrating with the classic Luna jump there. Always fun to see, but they're lining up once again here. The anomaly doesn't quite hit off the bat there. I think maybe just trying to couch it in case they try to go for an early aggression. Tempemelon not quite lining up the strike perfectly, but does win the strike war there, and that's going to be now going off the edge. Atlas a little bit too slow on that one, but not slow on the strike war, able to save the barrier even if he's not able to save the now. Holding on to that Hyper Beam just until then, managing to save it with the Hyper Beam. The instant flip from Tempemelon doesn't quite work out, countered by a flip from Bloom. Carmine on the bottom here, countering Heaven Resident there. Strike from Atlas sends it forward, but the anomaly gets it forward once again. The Ash Protection sending up to Fiery. Fiery not getting it through. Bloom on the bottom here. Carmine trying to get it forward, but the Supernova out of Bloom gets it forward. Freshly fresh along the top, countered by another anomaly. Heaven Resident just way too good on these. The backwards pass. Never mind. The dash from Luna is going to get it through. We've seen a couple of dashes from Tempemelon, and that one was the one that got it done.
Yeah, that Luna dash, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, on that open net is such a scary thing to have to defend against, especially as a character like Vice, who only has a couple things to maybe counteract it. But ultimately, if you get that Tempemelon, that Luna to the face, there's not a whole lot of opportunities you can do in order to get that out. But a really good save on the kill from Frightfully Fresh while I've been talking. Fiery and Heaven Resident have been very good at lining up a lot of these pillar into primary combos, just overall, and it has gotten a kill already, and it's forced Fresh's ultimate out. So that's definitely very, very useful here so far.
Yeah, both the teams making full use out of their utility as a team. Just the combos that they've been able to set up there. Nice secondary from Carmine there. But again, the defense here from PPL has been really good. Tempemelon taking a lot of incidental damage here, using the Crater Maker, trying to force out this core flip from Maloom. But Maloom isn't going to go quietly here. The goalie defense buff is pretty nice on that one. But a lot of damage coming out from the primary. A lot of healing, though. Carmine and Fresh combining the secondary and the Atlas primary there to be able to get things done. The Luna dash goes a little wide, unfortunately. The Luna Rocket almost takes Rune off the field. We have a red coring in overtime here, as we have Supernova going forward as well. Heaven Resident trying to get it to Fiery. Fiery trying to get it up to the top, but Frightfully Precious is not letting it get through, even with the Ash Protection. Pendulum Swing, everything being used back and forth once again. Goes to Tempemelon, Tempemelon to the bottom, but stolen away by Fiery yet again.
Yeah, but oh my gosh, Tempo running in with that boost, almost getting the kill or the goal. But ultimately, Bloom able to use that flip, get the save, and now Tempemelon does have that flip available, but that is going to be Carmine banished away for just a second by Heaven Resident. But that's Tempemelon coming in with the flip, with the boost, getting the kill onto Bloom, and that's Frightfully Fresh walking far up, off past that midline, getting the flip, and pushing that core into the net. And that's going to be Red Pack taking that first set with Carmine in there as the MVP, and there are a lot of really good awakenings here. Most primarily, I'm looking at that Monumentalist, that Twin Drive, maybe Team Player for Carmine. But what do you think about this draft?
I think that the Team Player pickup there is absolutely the right choice on a map like Inky's. there's no way that team player is going to fall all the way down to Atlas. It's going to get taken by someone. Might as well take it on the now. That does mean that Rune potentially gets the Monumentalist. And so Atlas is... Never mind, Rune goes for the Timeless Creator. So Atlas still gets Monu, so he can actually protect the entire barrier with the secondary. It did have the Twin Drive denied away. So I think overall, this is a really good draft for the Rat Pack. Of course, Twin Drive Vice is pretty good. Quick Strikes on Rasmus with a little bit of size from Rampage is not bad. And the Timeless Creator on the Rune is definitely something to contend with, especially with the way that these enemies have been playing out. But the great Dash Strike Rocket there from Tempomelon in the middle of all of that is able to secure that first barrier here. As we have the Hydro, the Hyper Beam being used there. Crater Maker countered by a great secondary from Maloom, actually. And is able to get clear down through Rune to Rasmus.
Yeah, and now we are in that open net scenario. Tempomelon doesn't have that boost available for them, but that doesn't mean that they can't do anything as Carmine and Tempo trying to get it out. A very good pillar from AverageAlex, just keeping it forward, Heaven Resonant keeping it forward, and Fiery working these strikes. Oh, is able to get past Frightfully Fresh's abilities for the time being. That is an open net now for both sides, and that's going to be Heaven Resonant catching that secondary, catching the core, and getting that first goal for the side of PPL. We've seen this before, but will history repeat itself? Will Rats get the 3-0 or the 3-1? Or can PPL take this first point and keep everything going?
Yeah, I mean, they almost did. If they had knocked out Rasmus or the Atlas there, then Rasmus could easily take the barrier, take the goal pretty handedly with the Rune support. But Maloom trying to do everything to push forward here on the aggression there. That is what you want to see on this Vice, but it's just not getting through. And so we have a little bit of a defense here on the side of PPL. They're trying to get it through this corner aggression, this time being the victims of it instead of constantly on the corner offense with this Rune Rasmus. But it's going to be the core just barely hitting the barrier. Tempo once again not quite landing the perfect dash core flip there. But is going to be able to get some aggression once again. Crater Maker forces out the core flip from the Vice and doesn't get the strike where unfortunately the Supernova managed to get it forward, but it's down to Carmine up to Tempo here. The power chord is going to whiff, but so will the Luna. Bloom trying to defend here, but it's going to be the now arrow from Carmine sitting in the goal, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it.
Yeah, not too many options when you get that massive primary just sitting on your goal line, and that's going to be Rat Pack taking their second goal in the set. And they're looking pretty confident here, pretty comfortable in this draft. And now they are trying to work the core up the map. But, I mean, that Rune from Heaven Resonant is really good at just kind of locking down the core into the bottom corner. And Pyre has had some very good strikes just to get this offense, get this pressure moving. But nothing quite yet as Carmine taken low. Frightfully Fresh using that ultimate to get a bit of healing on Carmine. But that's flip used from Fiery, and that's the barrier down for Rat Pack.
Yep, Maloom even using the ultimate to put a little bit more hurt on the side of the Rats here. Fiery, though, not able to win the strike where the Hyper Beam comes out here. Maloom trying to get it through, but Carmine just keeps it up in this corner. Tempomelon not quite managed to get to the rebound. Was a great idea, but unfortunately not the execution on it. The Atlas secondary versus that Rune pillar is going to just keep it in the corner. That's going to be Rune sailing off the map. Core flip forced out from Atlas, though. Otherwise, Fiery absolutely would have taken it away. The dash from Tempomelon, unfortunately, up to the top. That's a lot of time bought. Rune is almost back on the field here. This is the chance here, and Tempomelon finds the angle through there. A couple more seconds, Rune is back with his cooldowns, and it's not going to go very well for the Rats, but doesn't matter if Rune doesn't get back in time.
Yeah, against a character like that Vice, when you have boost with Luna, that is an all-or-nothing ability, and it looked like nothing when Tempomelon accidentally just flew into that goal line of Bloom, but ultimately that put Tempomelon in a great spot to win that strike or get the strike into the net with Rat Pack. And once again, we're looking at potentially a repeat of the last set, as now that's going to be Fiery off the map, Bloom looking very low, and Rat Pack only 1 point away. That is going to be the Hyper Cannon coming out. Bravely Fresh just using it, that free get out of jail free card with that secondary in order to keep it away, but that is Bloom off the field, and now Carmine and Tempo working their way up the field. Not quite going to be able to get it with the boost, but now that is Fresh with the flip, slowly trying to work his way up the field, and not going to be able to get anything quite yet as Bloom is going to be back on the respawn.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with this Atlas. Never mind, dash strike from Luna is able to get it forward. I was about to talk. Oh, it's like, oh, the forward aggression kind of has to be tempered by the lack of speed on the Atlas. But it doesn't matter with the Luna just going all in. The support from Carmine has been really good. Well-deserved MVP there. But yeah, one of the things I do want to say, especially with the Omega Infused Accelerator on the board, is that speed on Atlas is really important because he's really good when he's able to push up, especially with the core flip, and we've seen Frightfully Fresh so prescient to be able to do that, to be able to move forward and be aware of what's happening. But he has to think like 20 seconds ahead, because if the core goes past him and he has no speed, it's just over.
Yeah, definitely. If you're misplaced as Atlas, all of a sudden, hey, guess what? Unless you get a cheeky walk into the wall and get a revive or something on yourself to move, that's like the fastest way you can move other than walking. So you really don't have many options to get back if you're pushing up a little far, which kind of makes it a bit scary, especially with such an offensive based comp from the side of PPL. But for the time being, it is going to be that first barrier down for the Rat Pack, and now, I mean, that's Fiery with that Whiplash coming out. Not quite going to be able to get anything yet, except for the kill from the Supernova, super specialized training, and that's going to be Fiery locking in that pendulum swing, getting that first goal, and we could be seeing a repeat of the first two sets here, or we could see PPL finally get that second goal and get this game back in their hands. They've been able to come out swinging every single set, but will they be able to keep it going in this third set is the question.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the performance that PPL has been showing. Again, they've been able to take the first point before. We've seen this before, but they are really coordinating very well and getting a lot of passes. Also, just a little bit of yapping. Tempo's kind of a noob for not dying to the Hyper Beam last time, because Tempo would have restored a lot of energy off of that. So, you know, just the big brain plays that sometimes you don't see. Tempo walking into the anomaly as well, almost dying for it. Carmine taking a lot of damage, having it no more evade left, but is able to heal off the secondary there. Fiery getting a strike into the barrier with the core flip as well, and the whiplash to send it through. Beautifully done, just kind of a 1v3. The anomaly did help a lot there, and just the pressure on it, but Fiery is there standing in a triangle of opponents, standing quite victorious.
Yeah, an incredible push from Fiery and Heaven Resident, just making the other team scared and putting the core in a spot where it's almost guaranteed to go in, and now that is Carmine looking very low. Fiery, though, looking even lower, getting taken out by Frightfully Fresh's Expanse, and now it is a 2v3 Rat Pack working their way up the field, trying to get something going, get this game back in their hands. They do not want to get 3-0'd in a game that looks like theirs to lose. And now it is, though, Bloom using, has that flip available, and also has that secondary up pretty soon here. Maybe get some offense going, but that is the flip used in order to prevent that boost from Tempo Melon, and now it's looking like a bit of an even playing field.
Yeah, fairly even on the energy, but of course Fiery is very low right now. Supernova comes out, is going to do a ton of damage there. Atlas ult not quite going to get the value on it because it doesn't save anybody on that one. That's going to be the kill flip coming out from Tempo there. Nice combo with the dash. Can they take the barrier, though, is the question. Bloom not getting the clear through to Fiery, of course, is very difficult in this, but they actually do manage to even through the secondary on the now, but in the end, it is going to be the full team play here from the Rats. Frightfully Fresh pushing forward just a little bit so that the missile prop can reach over with the astral projection, and that's going to spell the doom before anyone can reinforce. The 2v3 predictably going the way of the 3 instead of the 2, but it's a very valiant fight there from PPL.
Yeah, very good first point take from the side of the Rat Pack. Now they only need 2 more in order to take this first game in a 3-0 fashion. However, PP Legends does not want to does not want to lose this game, does not want to lose this set. They only need 1 more in order to get this set back in their hands. Oh, but that is going to be Fiery taken off the map by just, I guess, a stray missile or something from Tempo Melon. And now it is going to be a 2v3 as Tempo Melon opening up that barrier. And now Carmine and Tempo working their way up the field with that core. And that's going to be Tempo Melon catching the core, getting that goal. And now it is 1 more point for the Rat Pack to get this first game.
Yeah, 1 point away, but also 1 point from PPL's potential reverse sweep here. They have to look out for that one, and these points have been pretty close overall. A great banish gets 2 of them, but the Atlas secondary holds on Carmine, taking so much damage here, but Tempo manages to find the barrier amidst all of that. Cratermaker comes out, forces the dodge out of the rune. The Hyper Beam as well is triggered. The Supernova comes out, buys just a little bit more time. Bloom has the core flip, going to use it to get sends up to Fiery. The Death Touch is going to hook Frightfully Fresh away, but does not secure the barrier. Bloom teleporting forward as well, has no energy, very few abilities. The Rocket Dash misses from Tempo Melon, does not get the right read, but does get the read down to the bottom, and the rune is not able to save, unfortunately, for the PPL, but fortunately for the Rats, that is going to be game 1 going their way.
Rat Pack now up 1-0 one more game away from qualifying for North American Strikers League Season 7, and they're looking very, very confident in a nice, that was 3-0 fashion in this first game. And I mean, looking at the stats here, you can kind of see where a bit of that difference was. It felt like PPL kind of took a bit more offensive of a team comp, but ultimately they weren't really the team getting the kills. It was mostly Tempo Melon and a few kills from Frightfully Fresh and Carmine as well that just kind of ended up forcing the other team into the sides of into their net, into the walls, into the other team's net. And ultimately, it felt like PPL weren't really able to be on the field a whole lot. And while they did have some great points, some great sets, ultimately, they just weren't quite able to get those goals, get what they needed in order to get that first game. And now, I mean, we're sitting at Rat Pack sitting at 1-0 in the series, and they're looking pretty confident.
Yeah, definitely a nice place to be where you are that one game up, a lot less stressful. Because now in order to get kicked out, you have to lose 2 games and then also lose 2 more games in order to actually be kicked out, whereas you only have to win 1 more game in order to actually get to NASL. So Rat's definitely able to rest a little easier, but they can't rest just yet. We see, especially if you look at the damage there, Maloom, most damage in the game, and it's not even close on that one. 29k on the Vice. Next highest is 19k on Tempo. The only difference, of course, was the combination of Atlas and now able to just produce so much healing. So unless the Rats are able to lock in another now Atlas and make it work, I imagine that PPL is able to do a lot more killing on a map like Gates of Obscura, where you have the opportunity to use the poison zones, to use the Atlas thing in the center of the one variant. There's a lot more kill potential, despite the lack of a giant cannon that can kill people. Surprisingly, Inkies is not that much of a KO map, unless, yeah, Tempo Melon doesn't seem to think so, and I'm willing to at least acquiesce that 5 KOs is pretty solid. But Inkies generally not as much of a KO map, whereas PPL really played kind of a lot of KO potential, and they really started, we saw that first set you were talking about it, where they had the opportunity to land those anomalies into pendulums, and they played that very well, very coordinatedly, which you don't see a lot of the time, but I think PPL has a lot of opportunity there to flex that on the next map choice. So even though it's not their choice, I think there's still a lot of hope for them.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even think a goal shift in the next kind of game is all that necessary from PPL. I think ultimately, if they're able to get even a similar draft to what they just got in this game on this Gates of Obscura map, as you're kind of saying, it's going to be pretty unlikely that Frightfully Fresh and Carmine lock in that Atlas and Now respectively. So, I think they definitely do have that opportunity. Run it back, get that Rasmus Vice rune, and just keep the games going. They're comfortable on these picks. They're all very good players in their own right, and so I think if they were to keep this draft, keep the same kind of thing going, we'll see. But as we are getting into the draft, we're going to see PPL banning away that Asher, the Rat Pack banning away an X. So both kind of brawlers targeted a bit. I'm not sure who that Asher picked. Maybe Carmine or Tempo has been away. However, that is going to be PPL picking up that now to start off this draft, and that's going to be pretty useful for, you were the ones dying in the last game. Maybe you can kind of get that damage and those kills, but in the same sense that it's going to be Tempo Melon picking up that Luna again, because Tempo Melon is Freak, who plays that Luna Brawler and is very, very good in practice in it, and it goes kind of crazy. And then Fresh, of course, locking in that Atlas. It worked in the last game. It's going to work in this game too. At least that's what they hope. So we'll see what the rest of the picks are here.
Yeah, now one of the things crucially, though, is that is no longer going to be Carmine on the Now that was stolen away. So no super healing team comp on that one, at least. Also, I did make a minor goof, and I'm going to draw attention to it myself. I called Gates Obscura, and then I started talking about CTC because I am a genius. But with the portals, especially that Luna forward becomes a lot more fun. I don't know if necessarily fun is important in NASL, but there is a lot of surprising angles you can hit with that Luna, and it also makes it a lot less all-in. Although Tempo seemed to do fine with the all-in plays, just standing on the goal line, being in the right position, even without the ability to go back, just trusting a Carmine on that one. So is going to be the Octavia play. which especially after the nerfs to infinite speed, I don't think we've seen as much, but it also means that it's a lot easier to secure the now, or not the now, the Octavia, so people are less inclined to go all out in denying her kit, so she can actually play a little bit more sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see how it performs. I mean, both comps are well, when I say both comps, I mean just the Rat Pack comp. Their comp is very similar, except this time they're not trying to scale that healing, they're trying to scale that speed. Ultimately, it's going to be Tempo Melon and Frightfully Fresh kind of holding it down, locking it down, getting the strikes where they need to be, always sit in that same position. And then it's going to be Carmine kind of running all over the field, trying to get all those strikes and all those goals. And then kind of set up Tempo Melon or Fresh on the defense or offense. But then at the same time, we're going to see PPL kind of doing a shift in their focus for this game. That's going to be the now Kai and that Juliet. And I'm a big fan, like incredible fan of Kai on this map here, because he's very good at just kind of getting a lot of players and kind of running all around, especially with the portal. So I'm interested in seeing how this Bloom Kai performs on the defense. That is going to be the first bear going down, PPL dropping it, but Carmine has those portals passing to himself to keep that flow state up, and that may just be what you need if you're that Octavia, because already both barriers down for PPL.
That's going to be the Crater Maker as well, and there's basically no chance that Bloom can get to that. Even if you dodge, it's going to slow you down for a half second, and that's going to be enough that there's no way you're getting down there. So great checkmate there by Tempo Melon, despite the fact that it's not the Chess Awakening from last time. They're still playing chess, they're still making use of their abilities in a very strategic way. Frightfully Fresh using the Astral Projection there to get the clear through. Carmine getting a great strike there as well, but it just gets back to Fiery, who puts it back in the corner. But the secondary from Atlas and both these teams just going back and forth here. The corner aggression from both these teams has been immaculate in both games. Just the ability to lock it down in the corner and keep it there for so long. Timberland with a bit of a back pass there on that one, unfortunately. It's going to be a barrier going down. Frightfully Fresh not able to protect against that one. Giga Blast gets it forward, but not for too long. Carmine with the portal pass, and then the portal self-pass as well, getting through the portal himself. Fiery getting down with the ultimate there, with the dash punch as well. Opens up the goal, and now it's the opportunity for PPL this time to take advantage. And so far, we have seen that every team that scores the first goal, they do lose the set. So maybe that was just the strategy from PPL.
Yeah, maybe they saw how the game went last time. Every set that they started out with the point, they lost. But maybe it's the Rat Pack's turn to lose every single set that they get the first goal on. But we'll see here as the core continues moving around. Tempo Melon almost uses that boost, almost gets the goal, but not quite. As Carmine uses that flip, Tempo Melon tries to combo with that Crater, but ultimately neither ends up working out, as now that's very little energy on the side of the Rat Pack as they're working their way up the field. But I mean, that's going to be PPL, great defensive sequence, going to be able to keep it out for now.
Yeah, Fiery unfortunately not hitting the angle there, but Heaven Resident is able to actually get a great self-pass through the portal there with the now arrow. Keeps it in this corner once again. That's going to be the rocket dash, though, from Tempo Melon. Able to secure a lock. Crater Maker doesn't get it in just yet. Bloom with the eject button being in two places at once there, able to defend the entire goal all at once. Buys enough time for now to be back on the field here. Astral Projection gets it forward. The red core in overtime now. Strike shot countered by a dash there, but it's a lot invested in the dash strike from Tempo Melon once again is just too strong.
Yeah, I mean, boost into any non-hyper defensive goalie is going to ultimately be a 50-50. Either win or you lose, and Tempo Melon has been very good at winning at those interactions. And now that is going to be Rat Pack up 2-0 in this first set of the second game. So if they're able to just keep it going, I mean, if Octavia maybe gets first pick, which Carmine is currently set up to maybe get that, I mean, that's going to be some crazy opportunity for scaling. As that flip going to come out, Carmine getting to lock in the first barrier, as there's almost no energy for the side of PPL, and it's a bit dangerous when you're going up in the face of a Luna with Crater Maker and any other abilities, as Tempo Melon not quite getting the kill, but that is going to be a flip available for the Luna, and that could be a little dangerous if you are the side of PPL.
Yeah, definitely something to be aware of. There's so much damage on that Luna forward from surprising angles that you don't expect if you're used to playing against it from the goalie, where it has to only come from one direction. Now the Crater Maker keeps it in the corner a little bit longer. The Octavia ult comes out as well, but the strikes are not perfect. The Barrage and the Now both able to get it through. Loom using the eject button there just for a little bit of speed. or even secondary for a little bit of speed, you just immediately going back to the eject button. That is going to be the second barrier going down here. The dash into the core flip again, not instant flip from Tempermelon. I think that one actually might have been intentional that time. Should stall the Kai for a half second, but didn't quite win the mind game on that one. Carmine just getting it up there to tempo, interrupted though by Fiery, who, never mind, great play there from Frightfully Fresh, able to get a great angle forward. Carmine gets it down to Tempermelon, who just puts it down into the corner, just keeping that speed the entire way through.
Yeah, overtime popping, and now that's going to be Carmine locking in that MVP for the set. I'm looking at, maybe Explosive Entrance, maybe a Glass Cannon, but ultimately, yeah, Explosive Entrance is picked up for Carmine. That's going to be a lot more speed allotted to that Scaling Octavia character. And we're also going to see Peak Performance, interesting little pickup here from Tempermelon. But more importantly here, that's going to be Monumentalist picked up for AverageAlex. And that's going to be very, very useful on that defensive and offensive line, just getting a lot more pressure going. And of course, Frightfully Fresh picking up that prime time should be very, very nice to have into all of these defending opportunities all over the place. So it should be interesting to see here is Carmine already running across the field with that flow state.
Yeah. We do, though, have Fiery taking the first barrier, almost the second with a punch. Maloom playing very far up on this one again, just on that aggression. That's going to be the rocket into the dash again from Tempo. Does lose both the barriers, but does secure a kill, and that's going to be the opportunity here for the Rats to bring it back. They get one barrier. Can they get two? Not quite just yet. Carmine not able to land the primary on that one. That's going to be another kill on Spawn this time. Now just not able to step up. And Carmine was now last time. Heaven Resident not able to expect that one coming off again so soon. The ultimate comes out from Fiery and does have the flip now. Might have to use it. It's going to be Carmine actually just getting struck on that flip. So a bit of a waste on that one. Nicely played there by PPL. Frightfully Fresh trying to keep it out of this corner. Trying to just clear out of the corner time and time again. The kill flip onto the Julie, who got a little too aggressive and stood a little too close to the goal line. Great Mirror comes out as well. The primer from Carmine secures the barrier. The rocket comes out to hit stun the Kai, but it's not enough. Heaven Resident is there on the support. Carmine dribbling up over the top. The last pellet of the barrage is able to get the clear. The rocket dash from Tempermelon not enough to get it through. The rocket onto the Julie, though, stuns for just a second. Tempo in front of the goal with core flip, and that is not going to go too much longer as Tempo sinks it right through Maloom.
Yeah, I mean, Tempermelon just right up in Loom's face with that flip is going to be able to get a nice, quick, easy goal. However, that also means that that's Tempermelon and Frightfully Fresh without even a single bar of that energy. Could be a little scary if you are the side of the Rat Pack. However, that doesn't mean that they can't do anything, as now they are working their way up the field, trying to get something going. Tempermelon, a bit of a whiff on that rocket dash, but is not going to get punished for it. And now Carmine, has that explosive entrance flow state, is just going to run, be able to strike the core 3 million times here, and they're able to get the core out for now. Carmine uses that ultimate, is going to be able to get that flow state once again, just keep it going.
Yeah, also forced out the flip on Maloom. Tempo almost dying there off of that one. And almost killing now, but unfortunately for both teams, neither of those happened. Tempo able to secure the second barrier there with a rocket after the strike, really nicely done. Karma with a self-path through the portal, really nicely there. Core flip countered by a Giga Blast, though, really nicely found by Maloom on that angle. Maloom running forward just a little bit with that eject button, with that dash. Fiery getting the core, going back into this corner here. Frightfully Fresh, though, with the secondary, with the Astral Protection. The ult comes out from Carmine, passes to Tempermelon, but Maloom gets the defense with the barrage once again. And Tempo with a great pickup through the portal pass, able to send it once again into the goal, and just an absolutely incredible catch.
Yeah, very, very good catch with that boost. I love it just when Luna will strike the core, but her secondary doesn't hit the core or the ball or a player, and ultimately she just keeps flying, but she got the strike off. Really good kill from Fiery, gonna be able to catch Carmine, getting a bit too comfortable on that edge, but that is Frightfully Fresh. Now had to use that Celestial Intervention, unfortunately for not. Carmine is back online, though. No barriers dropped from the Rat Pack, as now the way that the match is running is shifting a little bit, as now Carmine and Tempo able to get something going, working their way up the field, and that is going to be no first barrier down, as the barrage and strikes from the side of PPL is able to keep it out for the time being.
PPL showing why they are indeed a contender for NASL there with just an incredible defense. I think any lesser goalie there would absolutely fail on that one 100 times out of 100, not even a chance. but Maloom able to do that, able to get the defense. And so far, no barriers going down on either side, but an Octavia will. And once again, this new Atlas ult is just a little bit weird to work with. And it's going to be Octavia going down. Maloom intercepting the core flip there from Frightfully Fresh, but he did buy a lot of time with that. One barrier going down, not quite two just yet. It is going to be Fire picking up the second barrier. Carmine back on the field, though. The Giga does hit the Octavia, but not the core. Rocket goes a little bit wide. Heaven Resident trying to get the dribble, uses the secondary, uses the core flip, but doesn't get too much of a great astral protection there from Frightfully Fresh. The Rocket comes out from Tempo Melon, trying to set something up in this corner, but not quite getting it. Fiery also having to play back quite far, though, on this defense. Goes to the portal, picks it up at the bottom, use the ult to interrupt, but the secondary from Atlas does come out in time. Now gets hit stunned there, so isn't able to get the defense, and actually takes a lot of damage as well. It's going to be a barrier going down here. Tempo Melon picking up the first one here for the Rats. Carmine trying to get it through, but struck war by Fiery again by Tempo Melon too. That's 2 strike wars in a row. Does get the pass there. Crater Maker doesn't get the angle onto the barrier. Almost Tempo Melon trying to get some kind of rocket dash, rocket flip combo there, which probably would have actually gotten the kill onto Fiery there, but Fiery aware of that one. Tempo Melon using the flip there, does manage to get the barrier. It's an open goal on both sides. We are deep into overtime, so it's going to be red coring all over the place. Frightfully Fresh probably has to use the core flip pretty soon, but he's going to hang on to it as long as he can. Carmine gets the core, gets the flip off of that one last strike. Rocket comes out, hit stuns now, goes back into the corner. Primary comes out from the Octavia self pass with the Crater Maker into the goal!
Yeah, that's going to be Rat Pack taking that second set of the game in a nice quick 3-0 fashion. And that's going to be Frightfully Fresh picking up that MVP for the set. And I see a Twin Drive first off, but, you know, we could see any other pick, you know, really on this map, on this draft. But yeah, it's going to be Twin Drive locked in. However, that is going to be Fiery and Bloom next up in the draft. So we'll see what they end up picking. But, I mean, right now, looking like a pretty even selection. Is that's going to be 1-2 punch, definitely a useful pickup for Fiery on that offense for PPL. And I mean, aerials for Kai, I mean, aerial's eject button is already really good, so we'll see if Bloom is able to take flight in this potentially final set of the series. Is Carmine going to pop that flow state off to start off this set, and we're getting into this game as now, I mean, Rat Pack looking to win. Can they close out here?
Yeah, so far looking good for them. They managed to get 2 barriers there with the primary from the Octavia to pick up the second one. Tempo Melon trying to get this corner aggression once again. Frightfully Fresh using one of his secondaries there, using the primary as well. And of course, with the duration of that Timeless Creator, it is able to last so long on that secondary, but doesn't actually get out the second one in time. It's going to be 1 barrier going down, just barely gets the clear on the second one. Rocket counters the Giga Blast really nicely. Crater Maker comes out as well. Octavia ult is able to secure the now there for the side of the Rats, and that's going to be a goal scored here by Carmine up at the top. And, well, Rats are looking to close this one out, but PPL, again, we've seen them come back last time. They had that second wind in the last set. They have the opportunity to still come back, but it is not looking good for them.
They're down, but definitely not out quite yet, as Fiery working his way up the field with that flip, but instead it's going to be Frightfully Fresh getting the flip, get into the Cosmic Expanse, getting the kill on Fiery to start off this second point here, and now it's the power play. 1 barrier down for the side of PPL. They are not going to be able to get the second barrier quite yet, but that is Bloom taken pretty low with that Crater Maker, and has that flip available. Carmine using that flip. Tempo Melon has the flip available as well, trying to work their way up the field, but not quite, as that's going to be Carmine taken off the map, trying to do something, but now it is a power play for PPL. We'll see how this ends up going.
Yeah, corner aggression is good, gets 1 barrier, but not 2 just yet. The secondary from Atlas comes out. It's going to be a little while before second charges up, because he uses that pretty frequently as well. Carmine not able to get through here. Crater Maker comes out, but not getting too much done. Fiery does take a lot of damage off the back end of that, though. Tempo Melon walking up with the flip here. The Octavia ult comes out as well with the primary, but does get struck away by a nice staggering of the strikes there from Maloom and Heaven Resident there. But Tempo Melon with the flip gets the second barrier. Fiery down in the corner here with the now arrow as well. Ash Projection sends it forward. Tempo Melon up to the top of the self-pass. Rocket dash into the goal. And Rat Pack 1 point away from NASL.
1 more point, and they have locked themselves in to the NASL League for Season 7, and they're looking pretty well slated to do this. Heaven Resident does that have that flip available, though, as Frightfully Fresh also has one up. And we'll see if Bloom and Heaven Resin are able to work their way up the field, get the core to fiery, and get something going. But that is the first barrier down for the side of PPL.
Second one as well, core flip as well, and that is through. A very quick point there as the Rats cannot wait for NASL, and they are now qualified. Congratulations to the Rat Pack, securing their spot in the premier tournament of Omega Strikers. PPL tried really hard, had so many good moments, so many critical defenses that they were able to get through. And I think we have a chance to see them later on in the night making a run for it, but at least for now, they will have to suffer a defeat and go down to the loser's bracket.
Yeah, that's going to be the Rat Pack locking themselves into the NASL Season 7 with a nice 9-0 to start off their season, and that's going to be the side of the Rat Pack. You know, feeling very comfortable. They did prioritize a lot of Tempo Melon flip, and I think that was really, really good because it ended up just kind of forcing a lot of those offensive plays. It kind of scared PPL, scared Bloom a little bit with the just constant flip pressure from Tempo Melon. But with that being said, we are going to go to a quick break as we got Wee's Little Bees versus Polar Cortex up very soon here. So make sure you stay tuned. We'll be right back.